Everyone. Uh, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll start it then. So on behalf of Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management's Innovation Council and the Department of Basic Science and Humanities, we have organized a one-day workshop on problem solving and ideation. For today's workshop, we have invited Mr. Raj Rakshit, who is a researcher at TC's RNI for the last 6 years. He has completed his ME in ECE on 2015 from IIST, formerly known as BESU, on signal processing specialization. His research interests are radar signal processing, sensors and systems, acoustic signal processing, etc. He has 19 granted patents worldwide, another 5 in pipeline, 3 journals, 9 conference publications, and 1 book chapter publication till date. So I'll request Mr. Raj Rakshit to start with his talk. Sir, are you there?
Yeah, I was reading some pop-up messages. So thank you. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. Am I audible, visible?
You are audible, sir, and you can see the screen.
Okay, so you can't see me, is it?
No.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I can't actually.
Apparently, some of you can and some of you can't. So is that
We
okay?
can see you.
We can see you.
We can
Okay.
see.
Okay. And this echo, I can hear some echoing voice. Is it because of me? I'm logged in from 2 different.
Yeah,
devices,
that happens sometimes.
but one of the device doesn't have a microphone, so I believe it is okay.
No,
right?
sir. No, not because of you.
Okay, fine. Then fine. Okay. So thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me for the second time. I'm really grateful. So last time, if I remember correctly, we discussed about research acumen, research mindset, and in a broader term, how would you start and how would you talk to young people and motivate them towards research. Today we are talking about innovation ideas. Okay, I'm still having pop-ups. I'm not very comfortable in this Zoom setup. Last time I did was while I was talking to you, and then now. So sorry for that. And if I make some silly mistakes because of the platform, please bear with me. Okay. And having said that, I have one small question in mind. Is this like, how is the audience, demography? How is the demography? Like, is it a mixed bag or like focused like only third year alt streams or third year electronics only, or is it a completely random mixed bag, students coming from different streams? How is it categorized?
No, students, there are students from all the streams: civil, mechanical, EC, electrical, computer science, and first year to fourth year. Okay.
So I don't know how will I cater to all the students, because of course I am from electronics background. So my talks and all the slide decks that I have will be more biased towards electronics, but I feel that in general we'll have some topics to discuss or some pointers which will help all the students. Okay, now first, a disclaimer. I'd like to start with a disclaimer that my Hindi skills are not that sharp. So I do comprehend it, but I'm not able to speak in Hindi. So if you have any questions, or if you have the answers to my questions, feel free to talk in English, Bengali, Hindi, whatever suits you. In return, as need be, I would I can speak in English or Bengali, but my Hindi skills are not that sharp. That's the only disclaimer that I have. And with that being said, let us first talk about ideation. And even before that, let us, so that we are on the same page all together. Can any of you one of the students I would prefer. Can any one of you tell me what is your idea, or what is in your mind, what is the definition, or what is the differentiating factor between engineering and research? Okay, there is, first of all, there is no right or wrong answer. I just want to listen from you so that I don't get bored by talking, for next 45 minutes alone. I feel I'm alone here. So, because I cannot see any one of you. So if any one of you can answer this question, whatever is there in your mind. So what is the difference between engineering and research? What do you feel?
Sir, can I say something about engineering and research?
Please go ahead. What is your name, sir?
My name is Tarko Bhattacharya. I am BTech Mechanical third year. Sir, I believe the engineering is the process where we can get about the particular topic and some particular things. In spite of the research, in the research, we get different types of thing on a particular basis, on a particular subject. But in engineering, there is a different types of subject. Okay, and there's a different types of questions and answers, so we can get the different types of things. But in research, we can get only one thing or one particular things.
Okay, so basically you are saying when you are into research, you have a very focused end goal. Have I
Yes,
understood?
sir, obviously. Yes, sir,
Have I
obviously.
understood you correctly? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So thank you for the answer. Any other responses? Any other responses? Because this is the fundamental basis of ideation. See, ideation is a multifold topic. Okay. If you talk about ideation is business acumen, I come from a company which does very good business, if I may put it that way. So if you talk about ideation in business, it probably caters to the distribution chain and stuff like that. If you talk about ideation in research, it is more about finding some new method, or bringing a paradigm shift in existing techniques, or doing things better. Okay, but when you talk about ideation in engineering, it's a different ball game. Okay, so you are either maybe into product development, or in the quality management part, you are invoking all those ideations. So before you start talking about ideation and you start thinking about it, you need to know the difference between all these different things. Business is not what we are discussing here with students. So that is why I'm asking this question. So thank you for the answer. What I feel the difference between engineering and research is, and there is no right or wrong answer. To me, it is like when you are engineering something, your end goal is completely restricted. So you have a very focused goal. You want to build something. You want to build a mobile phone. Let's put it that way. So all the specs, whatever you want to put in that great new mobile phone, is already predetermined. Now you will invoke either science or technology to reach there. But your end goal is always known a priori when you are into engineering. So you are building something, you are developing something. But in research, there is no firm end goal. Like, you cannot have a fixed result in mind and then hunt for it through some data manipulation or something like that. This is not how research works. You are working in a way, you might find a way, you might not. There are hundreds and thousands of research that fail midway because it's not doable. Or, in computer science, people would often come up with a problem statement and then counter themselves by saying it's an NP-hard problem. And that is completely acceptable. Nobody has said that, okay, if you're into something research-wise, you'll have to find an answer. No, it's not like that. Engineering is something that helps to do that. If you want to do research on some particular domain, you need to have a setup to test whatever your theories are, or whatever your findings, or what new method you are gifting to the world. You have to test it somewhere, right? So there are two ways. Either you engineer something, in a physical world, or you do simulation. Both are engineering. But while you are simulating something, or while you are, making the setup, that is an engineering work, right? An idea caters to all of this. So I am pretty sure you are aware of the company called Lenskart. They make glasses. They are Indian made, built in India company. They bring all their, high-tech devices from Germany, and it's doing really great. You are aware of it, right? Yes, no, please respond. I mean, otherwise it becomes only one-to-one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, if you go into their app, you will find, or if you look at their advertisements, the way I have seen in digital media, they will show you someone's face, and then they will show you green lines on top of it. Now they will ask you to move, go left, go right, and that, those green lines are basically following you. So what they are preaching in their ad is a technology which is called mesh detection. So they are forming a mesh, a 3D mesh of your face, and then the software is able to recommend you the right fit and right size of your spec. 10 years back, it was unthinkable. It was unthinkable. And that is why this type of products were restricted to offline market only. Now, all this pandemic has, all sorts of bad things and negative impacts on society. But ideation wise, it has really brought some revolution in different segments. So if you keep your eyes and ears open, you'll find them, that there are so many businesses that has gone completely online. Companies around the globe are going digital, going by the process called digital first. The way we are meeting today would have been really difficult, if not impossible, to conduct this sort of meeting in a seminar hall and whatnot. People have to come, and it's a messy process. But now it has become so easy. But even before that, there were companies who tried to do some innovation in that field. Some tried with, really sophisticated vision-based algorithm to track a person's face and recommend him or her the right fit for his choice of glass or spec. Then one company came and completely changed the game. What you would be really amazed to know what they did. It's nothing to do with technology. And if I can offer you only one point throughout this talk, and that will be this. If you are into engineering, forget about research. If you are into engineering, if you want to become a good engineer, an engineer is who? Who creates? A doctor is who? Who saves, right? A teacher is who? Who builds society. A teacher is not someone who teaches or gives the tuitions. No, they create a society. They create mindsets. Okay, so these are the pillars of the society. So if you are into engineering, you are a creator, right? And if you are a creator, there is one term, and I'm pretty sure that Oxford is going to adopt this word very soon in their vocab, and I'm waiting for that day. It is already recognized worldwide. You go to any country and use this word, they will immediately understand what you mean, and that word is jugaad. Okay, so in engineering, jugaad plays a big role. Okay, if you are judicious, if you are smart, you will find different ideas, different solutions across the across domain. So interdisciplinary research, interdisciplinary work is a very hot topic in today's environment. So there are companies who will bring in mechanical engineer, civil engineer, computer scientists, and electronics engineer, electrical people from electrical background, and together cohesively they will create a product. You cannot just say, yeah, I'm an electronics engineer, I know only electronics, no computer science. Those days are gone. So you'll have to keep your eyes open and look at things that people have done in their respective domain, and take those ideas and put into your own work or your own development or your own engineering. So the jugaad that I was referring to is a very straightforward process. See, if you want to measure my facial, characteristics, and if you want to suggest me something which will have the best fit, there are two ways. Either you do an absolute measurement, which is the current trend now, to have a mesh, 3D mesh of my face and then recommending according to that mesh. Or you can also go about by relative measurement. You do not have to absolutely measure my face, but if you have some marker, so relative to that, you can also do the measurement. And that company, I forgot the name, excuse me for that. What they did is they simply said, you open your camera and then take out your debit or credit card and put it here. As simple as that. Debit card and credit card across the globe, they have same dimensions. They don't change, right? So it's an absolute marker. So if I put it here, immediately you can track it and say, okay, what is the width of this region, or what is the depth of this region, and you can recommend something on that line. So innovation doesn't necessarily mean bunch of mathematics or bunch of data science, right? So you have to have that mindset. You look at other people's work, what people are doing. Okay, this has worked in that domain. How and why has that worked? That is more important, I would say, than the actual solution. What I often see is that people get lost within the solution space. So if let's say you are trying to find the some pattern in some bacterial life, okay, so you have data, you have collaboration with some lab, or you are already working in some lab, you have data. Now what I have seen is that people will blindly try this method, that method, method A, B, C, D, and hope that some method will work. And if after trying like hundreds of methods, if he or she is not getting the answer, they said, okay, close down the research. This is a very hard problem. Let's look, go into some different problem. Do not attempt a problem like that. You guys are very young. You should have the right mindset. First, you look at the data, look at the demography of the data, the distribution of the data. The domain knowledge is very, very important. If you are close to the data, you are close to the solution. But if you just blindly search for solution, popping up, methods, established methods of data science one after the other, chances are you won't find the optimum solution. Of course, you will find a solution. It's just an algorithm. You feed in some number, you'll get some number. But the most important part here is the inference. How do you infer the result? Are the numbers talking to you? That is really important. So before I start talking about some of the ideas that I have used in my work, or we have used as a team in our work, I would like to hear from you if you have any ideas in your mind that you have already implemented in your own project or work or something like that. And it can be as naive as implementing some algorithm. It can be as naive as this. It doesn't have to be technical. It's just a very informal discussion, the way I'm looking at it. So if you can, then I'd be more than happy. Any one of you, or you have seen in some work people have done something which has really changed the game. Any one of you. Okay, so I believe some of you must be in 4th year, right, in engineering. So you guys are doing your practicals, and in your final semester, I believe you have to do some research work, not research work, some project work. Are you guys up to that mark, or no final year students here? Okay, let me ask a different question. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought I'm blabbering alone. Anyway, so okay. Since there are no answers, let me just. Is my slide moving? Is my slide moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is something we have developed, and during our last interaction, I talked a little about it. Today, I'm going to give you a very short overview of the problem, and then what are the new things that we have incorporated, or what are the things that we have in mind. I'll try to discuss a little. And before this talk, just 1 hour before, I had a quick call with Amrita ma'am, and then I got to know that this call is going to get recorded and live streamed. And I had to discard the entire slide deck which was my current slide deck, because some of the things are yet to be patented. So I cannot just discuss them on a public platform. So things that I'm discussing now are already being patented. So that way I'm sure, but I had very little time to prepare these slides, so they are ugly. Okay. But anyway, we are discussing engineering, so looks doesn't matter here. It's all prototype. So what was the problem that we are trying to solve? See, there is a disease called COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It is the second highest, it kills it is the second highest disease that kills most of the people, and it is one of the non-communicable disease. Non-communicable meaning there are no symptoms. And when you have some symptoms, it is already beyond 40%. And if it is beyond 40%, it is irreversible. So point number A, it is non-communicable. So there are no symptoms. You don't get to know that you are having this disease. Number 2, it is irreversible. The moment you see some, indications, it's already too late. Okay. On top of it, there is bureaucratical issues with the disease. So, you don't get to hear about it. You will very often you will hear that tobacco causes cancer and whatnot, but you won't hear that smoking causes COPD. That name is yet to be publicized at a mass rate. So whether you have COPD or not, the gold standard test even today is called spirometry. Now, spirometry, first of all, in our country's setup, it is very scarce. It's a costly test. On top of that, it is a very hard test. So while doing this research in 2018 or so, I went to some clinical facilities to go about the test and to get a hang of how things work on that present day's time. And I had no clinical history of any lung disease of any sort. Okay. I failed 6 times to give the exam, the spirometry test. That doesn't say that I had COPD. It's just that I was not able to complete the test. So there was a pipe and you have to blow into that pipe on top of your lungs. Okay. And it is a really tedious, painful process. Okay. And I failed 6 times. On 7th attempt, I could pass, and luckily the results were positive. So I had no issues with my lungs. Now imagine somebody with actual COPD, that too at an older age. How difficult is the test for that person? If you want to understand how COPD feels, you can do one small exercise. You can breathe in, completely fill your lungs, and then hold the breath there, and then on top of it, try to breathe. So what will happen is you will seem to mimic a fish, and that phenomena is called wheezing, which is one type of COPD indicators. That is only one type. There are other types. On top of that, the other issue is, in India, most of the patients with COPD are diagnosed with asthma. So they are given a bronchodilator test, and after that test, they will say, okay, the inflation is less than this percent, so you have asthma, and they are treated likewise, because there is no facility of spirometry in rural villages. So that was the problem that we handled, and we looked at, and we thought, okay, is there something that we can contribute in that field? Okay. So that is where this research came into the picture. In the image, you can see a blowpipe, which is 3D printed in-house. And there are 2 small attachments where 40 kilohertz air-coupled transducers are mounted. These are very cheap. In Chandni market, you can get a pair in 40 rupees. It is that cheap. But the alignment the angle at which they are kept is something that came from research. Okay. So the only the pipe with the doctor's fitment is the design is patented. Okay. So you cannot just make another product with the same lean angle. It gives you the best rail to rail, overhead, right? This angle. And then we have a bunch of electronics. So what are we doing? So where is the ideation part? This design is not idea. Okay, it is trial and error. So we collected data multifolds, and then we analyzed and we did some mathematics and found out this angle. But where is the innovation part? Where is the ideation part? So what we thought is that, can we track normal breathing of a human being bidirectional, meaning both inhale and exhale? Can we track that? And how easily can we track that? Because as I said, the actual test spirometry is a very, very tedious process. And there are certain restrictions, like if you have a cataract surgery, if you have sugar, if you are a child less than 6 years of old, you cannot, and there are many others, you cannot just do this test. So there are certain restrictions. And at the same time, there were other research bodies that suggested that early markers with your pulmonary system, your lungs, early markers of the deterioration of your pulmonary system can be tracked from normal breathing. You don't have to forcefully breathe in or breathe out. From your normal breathing, there are markers that can tell you that something is going wrong. So we wanted to ship into that and see if we can create a prototype. This is engineering. So I know the end goal. I want to make a prototype which can, detect the inhale and exhale cycle of a human being. That is engineering. Research comes later. What will we do with the data? So now I'm talking about the ideation, or putting in new ideas into research. Okay. So that being said, my end goal is fixed. I want to create a device which has this capability. So how to go about it? So phase tracking, in general, people used to do time of flight measurement. So a signal goes, hits the target, comes back. You find the time difference. You know the speed. You can find the distance, and you can track the phase from then on, because phase is basically really directly related to the path length. But in our case, we are using ultrasound, so the background is really faster. And if you want to track on top of that, you need to have nanosecond resolution. So the cost of the engineering goes up. So the end objective, that we want to create a device which is really frugal, really inexpensive, that can be handheld by the mass in country like us, that used to be got lost somewhere if we were to go by that route. So this is where ideation came, and we thought, can we change the, can we bring about a change in the sensing principle also while doing the engineering? So engineering is one thing. I know what we are after, but can we change the sensing modality? What can we do on our own? So here we developed a very, very, very naive and simple technique. What we do is we kept two 40 kilohertz ultrasounds looking at each other. So ultrasound is going and being received. And then I have a blowpipe. So what will happen? When you are blowing in or out, meaning whether you are inhaling or exhaling, you are either helping the wave to reach faster to the receiver, or you are hindering it. Right? And how much sensitivity you have, how much you are hindering or how much you are aiding, is governed by the angle at which the blowpipe and your transducers are, isn't it? I mean, think of it this way. If I put the transducers in this way and start, let's say this is the transmitter, this is the receiver, and I start blowing in the line of sight, I'm basically aiding, completely aiding or completely hindering. But if I put it in some angle, then the vector calculus comes in, vector mathematics comes in, and you are aiding at some portion to it, right? So that is why finding the right angle was really important. So with that setup, what we did is we simply did, homodyne technique. So ultrasound is being transmitted, it is being received, I'm blowing, so it is either advancing in phase or retracting in phase based on whether I'm inhaling or exhaling. I have that information in my received signal, and I multiply that signal with the original 40 kilohertz signal. It is as simple as your AM detection, homodyne principle. So now when you multiply and low pass filter it, you have a baseband signal. So now your signal is not at 40 kilohertz. It is a baseband, less than 1 kilohertz. Let's just say that. So if you have a signal which is at baseband, you can sample it with any cheap microcontroller, even an Arduino would do. That is precisely what we did here. We have used an Arduino Uno. And at about sampling rate of 800 hertz to 1K, we didn't need 1K actually. 800 hertz to 850 hertz, we could collect the data. And with that data, we did some data science on top of it. We collected data from 20 smokers and 20 non-smokers from our lab. None of them had any, precursor or any medical history. And we could separate the smokers and non-smokers with 96% accuracy. So the entire system is patented, the design is patented, and all the data science and all the inferences are put in appropriate places. We got 2 journals and 1 conference publications out of it. But what is the ideation part? The ideation part here is the sensing modality. That is the real contribution. So you can track phase by homodyne principle, and on top of it use any microcontroller with very less capability, is what we preached. And this came from engineering only, right? So this is something already done, tested. It was really a winning situation for us. Second challenge came, it was a practical challenge. Now imagine this. What is the use case? This is a prototype, okay. This dabba can any day be changed, modified, made to look nice, miniaturized. You can do all sorts of things. But at the day's end, you will hang up with a dabba. Now, these devices are supposed to be taken by NGO workers. For our case, there are ASHA co-workers. They are supposed to take that device, go to rural India in villages, collect the data, and give feed to appropriate doctors we have partners with. The issue is, they are not the engineers who created it. I know what these knobs do. They are very close to me, right? But they don't do it. They don't know it. If you want to track the phase, in the bottom image, you can see what you see is basically the phase, the change in phase, which is directly proportional to your breath signal. So the inhale and exhale cycle you can see, and no respiration stage is also being shown here. But in order to get the collect the right data, you need to make sure that your signal is not clipping. By the way, all electronics engineers present today, I'm pretty sure you know about clipping. Clipping is when your signal touches the upper rail or lower rail. In case we are using an Arduino, it can collect data from 0 to 5 volt. So if your signal wants to go beyond 0 volt or wants to go beyond 5 volt, you'll have clipping. So you'll have a flat head and you have lost the information there. And it is true in every domain. Doesn't matter. It doesn't restrict to electronics, measurement principles only, right? So in order to avoid that, there are certain knobs which will give you the gain control. And before you start collecting data, you have to pull that signal up to 0 volt and then start collecting data. Because if you are pulling things, not 2 volt, 2.5 volt, because this is the midway between 0 to 5 volt. So if you are starting, if you start your measurement from 2.5 volt, you have, equal space in both the rails with respect to both the rails. But who will do that in a practical scenario? They don't know it. I cannot just expect somebody who has no background, who has no idea what will happen if I don't do this, to do something which I have built and I know. So in order to mitigate this situation, we had another challenge in mind. What if I want to get rid of the electronics completely? So I need a system which will have this blowpipe, because that is necessary anyway. You need to have a blowpipe, but very less to no electronics, so that there is no human intervention involved. There is no human skill involved. It is agnostic to human skill. Even a 6-year-old should be able to, record data. How will I do that? The only solution to this is data science, right? You have to do this. If you want to get rid of electronics, you need to employ data science, and I'll go towards that. And before I go there, I don't know whether I would like to spend, So how many of you have taken signal processing course and are present here? Otherwise, I'll skip the mathematics. That's the because I understand it will be very boring for computer science guys or guys from civil background, and I apologize for that.
Sir, I didn't took it.
Okay. Okay, fine. Let's just stick to the the ideation part, not the mathematics. Okay, mathematics is just a tool. So here is what we tried. Okay, so I do have the blowpipe, the transmitter and the receiver. I just need a microcontroller to sample the data. Anyway, this is your breathing signal is an analog data, right? You have to digitize it and put it in some computer or some memory device. Now, how would you do it so that you can minimize the electronics? The electronics was needed because you are employing homodyne technique, which is allowing you to sample at a very low rate. Now, nobody said yes, so I don't think you have taken signal systems or signal processing classes, but I'm pretty sure that all of you will know or already know that there is a term called Nyquist theorem. So can anybody tell me what is it in very rough way? No definitions needed. Just tell me what does it say. Any responses from any budding electronics engineer? What is Nyquist theorem? What does it say? I mean, you have a signal. Let's say you have a signal at 10 Hz. I want to sample it. Nyquist has given a thumb rule that if you want to sample a signal at 10 Hz, your sampling frequency needs to be this. What is that? Any answers? It is twice of the bandwidth of the original signal. So if your original signal is restricted to 10 Hz only, then your sampling frequency has to be 20 or above. You cannot go below 20, twice of the message signal, right? You do not forget this. Always remember this part. This is the fundamental of all the engineering if you are into electronics. But that is a theoretical solution. In practice, never come below 10. Okay, do not come below 10. It will fail, and it will fail miserably. So when you are into your final year's project, if you want to sample something, do not just sample at twice the bandwidth of the message signal or the signal that you are trying to sample. At least go 10 times. Industry standard is people will never go below 4 times. Okay. So if I have a signal at 40K, by sampling by Nyquist, I am restricted to have a microcontroller which will sample at minimum 80K, isn't it? If I'm sampling, if my actual signal is at 40K, 40 kilohertz, you are bound to sample it at 80 kilohertz minimum. But then I'm telling you that you have to go 10 times higher at least, so as to get a nice reconstruction, right? So then it's all about, I'm still again in the trap of cost. So now I have a microcontroller which should give me a bandwidth of that much, high sample rate, high baud rate. So how will I solve it? I don't want electronics. I want only a small microcontroller, maybe attached to the pipe itself, and get the job done. So this is where again ideation came, and this is not ideation that we ideated, if I may put it that way. So I'll go to the I'll go to these two slides, and forgive me for all these mathematics. This is basically system of linear equations. I think you guys have not taken signal systems classes, so I'm not, but you have taken mathematics classes. So LTI, this part you will understand. if you are into anyway first year to second year, this part you will understand. This is basically a matrix representation of linear equations. Okay, so there are few possibilities, and even if you do not comprehend this matrix jargon because of which stream you are in, even elementary school level mathematics will give you the answer. See, if I give you 3 variables x, y, and z, how many equations do you need to solve it, to find x, y, and z? Can anybody answer? It's a class 8 level question. বীজগণিতে তোমরা পড়েছো, লাইক 3টে ভেরিয়েবল সলভ x, y আর z এর ভ্যালু বার করতে গেলে আমার মিনিমাম কটা ইকুয়েশন লাগবে? That's the question that I'm asking.
3.
The minimum. That's a very, very easy thing, right? So when you have this sort of arrangement, when there are 3 variables and three variables and 3 equations, and you are formulating a coefficient matrix out of it, you have an exact solution. Problem arises when you have less number of variables, less number of equations than variables, or higher number of equations than variables. So if you have less number of variables, then you have a underdetermined system, infinitely many solutions. And if you have higher, then you have an overdetermined solution. And again, I'm trying to keep away from mathematics. The basic crux is that there is a technique called compressive sensing. If you are into electronics and if your career objective is to stick to electronics core trade, I suggest you start looking at these principles. These are really new techniques. These are, in the midway of traditional signal processing and data-driven approaches. Why I'm pitching this? Because it's a very, very, very new topic. People are contributing to this principle, and people are using this principle left and right. So in your job interview, if you can convince the interviewer that you understand the crux of this compressive sensing or methodology similar to this compression technique, you'll have an edge. You'll have a definite edge. So I can give you 2 names also. Just bear with me. So Steve Burton and Nathan Kurtz, you can look them up on the Google, or you can look them up on the internet. They have a fantastic book on data science, and it is it is written keeping engineers in mind, not mathematicians in mind. Okay, so it is a really good book, and on that book they have have a dedicated chapter to this. So what is the beauty of this thing? The beauty is you have a signal of 40 kilohertz. Compressive sensing tells you that forget Nyquist. If you have millions of data samples, you can have a really crushed down, really truncated, downsampled version of that and still create a reconstructed signal similar to the original one with varying accuracy. Okay. Now again, I'll go back to the same statement that I made. How you are going to implement is of much less importance than when do you use it. If you understand when part of all the algorithms that you come across in your student life, you'll be at a better position than many of the rest. Okay, so when do you use it? When you have sparsity in your data. Computer science people may chip in now because they work with sparse data all the time. Okay, when you have sparsity in your data in any domain, doesn't necessarily be it has to be in time domain. In any domain, if you can find a domain, it can be frequency domain, it can be a domain that you have defined, right? It's just a mathematical manipulation. If you can find a domain where that signal, if transferred, is sparse, you can apply this compressive sensing technique, right? And there is another underlying assumption. The sampling has to be random. Now finding a random sequence, pure random sequence using a digital computer is almost impossible, next to impossible. So what people do, they stick to pseudo random sequences and then collect data, and the accuracy varies a little here and there, but you can get the original signal. And if you are bogged down with all these jargons, let me tell you what sampling is. Sampling is basically, let's say I have temperature data of a room. So temperature is varying all the time. It's going up, going down, going up, going down. Maybe it's a bad example because temperature doesn't vary that much. Let's say it is some data which is varying with respect to time, going up, down, like a sine wave. You can imagine a sine wave. Sampling is at what instant you are taking the data and storing it digitally. So I can say, okay, boss, I can sample at every 1/10 of a second. So I start at t equal to t naught, then t naught plus 1/10, I sample another data. Then t naught plus 2 into 1/10, I sample another data. Likewise. What I'm saying here, this sampling has to be random, purely random. So you sample now, and then you have a random sequence, which are basically time instants. So t naught, and then t1 is a completely random occurrence. You sample that. T2 is another random sample of that random number. You sample at that, and the signal has to be sparse in some domain. So it is widely used in your signals like images and audio, because image signal is anyway sparse, right? And audio signal is anyway sparse. So people have used this technique extensively in that domain. We tapped into that. We tapped into that and used that technique in our method. Why could we do that? Now, again, if you are into your second year or third year in electronics, you'll be able to answer that. Easiest question ever asked in any interview. If I have a sine wave, let's say 20 kilohertz sine wave, pure sine, and I'll make you easier for you. It is a pure sine and it is infinitely long. So I'm not truncating it digitally. These are the twists of the question. I'm taking away the twists. So it is an infinitely long sine wave. I go to the frequency domain view of it. How will it look in frequency domain? Can any of you answer me? I'll be very happy. A 20 kilohertz sine wave, how does it look in frequency domain? If you have not taken signal processing or signals and systems course, then it is okay. Otherwise, I highly recommend you that before going for your core interviews, you look into these very, very simple things. So our 20 kilohertz sine wave creates an impulse at 20 kilohertz, just like that. So if your signal is, let's say, a sine twice pi 20t, 20 meaning 20 hertz. If you do a Fourier transform, you see a spike at 20 hertz only. Now the twist may come, okay, I'm truncating it. If it's a digital signal, your computer has limited bandwidth, it cannot be infinite, you'll have to truncate it sometime. How will it look in the frequency domain? These are tricky questions. But the basic thing is, if you have a sine wave at the frequency domain, you have only one impulse. So what does it mean? It simply means that in frequency domain, a sine wave becomes sparse. So if I convert that into frequency domain, and if I put all the data in one vector, there'll be only few entries around that 20 hertz or 20 kilohertz, whatever. Apart from that, all are zeros. So basically, I have a sparse matrix. Now we can employ this. We could employ this, this compressive sensing on top of it. What did it do? It dramatically, dramatically reduced or mitigated the need of a good microcontroller, which could sample 40 kilohertz into 10. So now I can only sample at 1 kilohertz because I know that I'm using compressive sensing. So at the receiver, I can pull up, reconstruct the original data, isn't it? So this is what we employed here. So that box is now completely removed. You have a microcontroller, you have a memory where you sample that data at 1K. So benefits are A, there is no need of calibration, nothing, because I'm not doing any electronics. I'm not doing multiplication, filtering, this, that. I'm not doing anything. It's just the data and then the compressive sensing algo on it, which is running on the microcontroller. Even an inferior microcontroller would do. I'm just recording the data. Now the ASHA coworker can work with it, play with it. I don't care. And B, since I'm not collecting data at higher and higher bit rate, the data size is reducing. So now in one trial, the same device can serve, let's say 100 people, and earlier it could record only 10 people's data. Because you are reducing the data size 40 times, isn't it? From 40 kilohertz, not 40 kilohertz, minimum 80 kilohertz to 1 kilohertz, right? So this is where we use this idea and it worked like charm. And then we used another technique. This is a very, very age-old technique. This is something, anything new about it. So if you want to measure, phase, if you want to track phase using DSP, there is a technique called quadrature sampling, which says that you have to sample at 4 times. Nyquist said twice, but here you have to sample 4 times. I'll show you the equation if I have it. You can see the magnitude and the phase. So with 4 points, A, B, and C, D, from one cycle of any sine wave, you can track the phase really accurately. And the sensitivity is less than 0.1 degree. So I can track the phase even better. What I was doing before, I can do it even in an even better way with less electronics. So this is something that this is a new prototype that we are building. We are working with it. It has a lot of ideation. I thought it might inspire you. But again, sorry for not be able to cater to civil engineering guys or mechanical engineering. I have no background on that. Here I wanted to talk a little about another problem statement, but then again, as I said, this is something we are working on it now. So I cannot just go about and talk about the methods and the principles. I'll just state you the problem statement. The problem statement is, how would you detect leak in pipelines? So there are pipelines carrying gases and oils and whatnot, and they range, across miles and miles. So in desert, some company has made a pipeline and they, transfer oil. So they range from miles and miles. You'll find that these pipelines are there. And if leak occurs on those pipelines, it is the only method today is human intervention. So there are patrol cars. So if you have a leak, chances are, 5 to 7 days, nobody will detect it. Then some car will come, see it, fix it. And by that time, a huge amount of monetary loss will occur. So can we detect all those leaks a priori through signal processing is the problem statement. The problem statement is not generated in-house. There is some company that came to us with this problem statement. I'm working on it. This is the engineering. Again, I'm not going to talk about the research part here. This is the engineering setup that we have made. We have a pipeline, single sleeve pipeline, and we have strategic locations where we are putting accelerometer and pressure sensors, and we are collecting that data. And not just the leak, the occurrence of the event, we are also trying to localize the leak point. Where is the leak exactly coming from? So this is the mock-up of the actual setup. And now other versions are also there. We are working on it, how to extend the range infinitely. Meaning, I cannot just put up a pipe of, let's say, hundreds of kilometers in our lab. It's not possible. So what is the other way? And that is where we had to talk to guys with expertise in mechanical department, IIT Kharagpur Center of Excellence. The head of that, Professor Shujyopal, I'm very close to him. I'm in constant touch with him. He has given us some inputs. We have our inputs. We have our research inputs as well. We are trying to build it. I thought of discussing it today, but because of legality, I'm not going into it. Maybe when we have a patent around it, in some future talk, I'll discuss it. I'm pretty sure I've overshot by 10 minutes. So I'll stop now. If there are any questions, I'll be really happy to answer them. And they don't have to be, relevant to my work or your work. Ideation is in general, you should be open to that. You should read a lot of books. You should go through other people's work and try to see if I were to take some pointers and use it in my work, in my engineering, what would it be? That's point number 1. Point number 2, do not lose sight of common sense. You can be a great data scientist. You can be a great signal processing engineer. You can be the best scientist. But if you lose sight of your common sense, then you are not doing things right. It is your common sense that will drive you as an engineer. And that is where the jugaad part comes in. You need to know what are the tidbits of this domain and what are the things that I can apply, even if I don't know the jargons of that domain. You should be able to take some part of it and employ it in your own system, which will, massively increase the possibility of success of your design or your research or whatever you are doing. All the best. Good luck to you. And if you have any question, then I'll be happy to answer them.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, what is your name?
Sir, I'm Niladri Kormakar. I'm from Greater Kolkata Engineering and Management.
Which
Uh, I'm in 4th year. I've been working on a project. I want to ask some questions about it. Can I?
Mhm.
So we are working on a project which is basically uh, a cheaper alternative of a medical ventilator. As we know that there is already an existing machine, existing tool which we call as ambu bag.
Hmm.
So what we are doing is that we are trying to build up a cheaper alternative of ventilation machine by using that ambu bag, and there will be an automated system which will constantly pump that bag at a very specified time space and very specified pressure. So my question is that if I use an Arduino microcontroller
Hmm.
or any kind of microcontroller, and I'm using a servo motor, a Servo MG955 motor, because if we're using it in household purposes, then a DC servo motor is the best thing. Like
Hmm.
you can use it through adapters easily, like
Hmm.
a mobile phone charger and something like that.
Also, if you, I don't know whether you are using it for any kind of rotation. If you have that utility, these are best to use servo motor. Anyway, go on.
So my question is that uh, is it logically correct? Like, is this idea, is this whole concept of this project is valid? That I'm using a motor and a lever, and that lever is constantly pumping the ambu bag at a constant pace and at a constant time difference. Like we are saying that that the machine is pumping the ambu bag at a difference of 6 seconds.
Okay, I first of all, Niladri, I have not got the complete picture of the idea that you are preaching. Sorry for that. It's my it's something that I am lacking. So,
No, sir, it's
but
my
there
fault.
are few feedbacks that I can give you immediately. First of all, never ever call your system cheap. Okay, the world doesn't need cheap solutions. There are cheap solutions available.
Okay, sir.
Never ever do it. Do not aim for a cheaper version of that solution. There are many problems, and if you know the problems beforehand, it is better. First of all, you cannot patent it. No matter how great system you have developed, if the contribution is only from the cost part, you are out of the game. Okay.
No, no, all right, sir. You say, can I say something, sir?
My suggestion would be, please do not stop calling it a cheaper version or an alternate version of the existing system. You may pitch it like the ventilator is a standard device. You should not
Yes.
compete with that. It's a gold standard device. It's a medical equipment. What you can say is, what I am making is an
Reliable
alternate.
alternative.
Exactly. I am making a screening device. So these are two completely different things. If you are making a medical equipment, you are
Yes.
in a deadly trap. You need FDA approval and hundreds of other approvals. You need.
There will be a huge wave of scrutiny.
Exactly. And on top of that, human trial, before you conduct any such kind of human trial, there are hundreds of notions that you need to follow. Better to call it a screening device. This is where how Apple pitches all their smart bands and all their fitment products. They don't say we sell medical equipments. They say we are selling you screening devices that you are supposed to use on a day-to-day basis. And on a day-to-day basis, if you see fluctuations, you go and consult a doctor. The doctor will tell you what is your problem. I'm not going to tell you that. First of all, this. Second is ventilation and servo motors and motors with their leakage property. How does it play with your cardiovascular system? I'm not an expert in that. You need to find the right expert to tell you whether the ideation from the medical domain perspective, how good or bad is it. Engineering wise, it is super. It is really good. Do not drop your project. Even after college, you pursue this project, and I'm pretty sure chunks of it you can put it in other areas also. So keep your mind open to that also. And if you have further queries and if you want to share your question or your solution in a broader way, please connect with me. I think Amrita ma'am has my and Shubhashish has my coordinates. You can connect with me anytime. Just drop me an email or connect with me on Facebook. I'll more than happy to find an answer for you. I'll try my best.
Thank you so much, sir. It,
Yeah.
it would be a great thing for me.
Yeah.
So my another question is that
I think I have seen a message, but I don't know how to get back to that message. I'm sorry. I saw a message that I think somebody wrote.
There is an option below the screen, chat, like chat. You can click the chat option.
I don't see a chat option. Chat I found. Sir, I'm Orko Bhattacharya, mechanic. Am I overshooting the time because I thought that meeting is only up to 8? So
No, it's
is it
okay. It's okay.
Okay, I'm Orko Mechanic third year. I have made a project of underwater spy submarine. Underwater spy submarine with the structure of water bottle and a GoPro camera. I would love to see this solution here. I do have many GoPros and I'm a biker, by the way. So show that to me sometime. Maybe I'll be able to give you some input. And what was it? I want to modify the range, the distance it made. What should I do? I have made a project under a spy submarine and the structure water bottle GoPro camera. I want to. So what measurement principle are you using? You have to tell that. Are you using sonar, radar, LiDAR, ultrasound? What is the sensing methodology? I need to know that first. So this question is from Orko. So Orko, sonar. Okay. I have no idea. I have no idea how would you increase the range, but together we can find an answer. Just get back to me, take my coordinates from Amrita. But it's an interesting solution. I a priori love it because the way you are projecting the GoPro as the vision of your system, it is brilliant. Thank you for the idea. Now you guys are talking. Earlier I used to think that it's only me. I'm the only one speaking here. So any other questions?
Yes, sir. Myself is Arindam. I have a question regarding on your topics. Sir, you mentioned for the sampling. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are completely audible, sir. Which
Yeah.
stream you are from?
So basically, my question is that you mentioned for the sampling pseudo-random sequence you are using over there. So basically, my question is that is it, sir, totally pseudo, or it may be possible by the true random also? Because as we know that the pseudo sequence can come after a certain period.
That's correct. It depends upon your seed value. And if you change the random, the seed of the random number, it changes, but it is not possible to generate a completely random number, random sequence using a digital computer. Till date, there is no such algorithm. Or those algorithms will generate numbers which are of so higher length that is not required by me. So a pseudo random number is good enough. But with your department, sir?
Yeah, electronics. Basically, I'm an assistant professor over there.
Oh, sir. Okay, nice to meet you.
And basically, one thing that is also my quantum cryptography is my research domain. So that's why I'm asking over there.
Okay,
And,
okay. Where do you, I mean, are you doing your PhD or?
Yes, yes, sir. Basically, I'm completing my PhD over for the DSTSCIP funded project.
Okay.
Project is basically the quantum cryptography. So over there, I designed a hardware basis. Definitely, you mentioned properly that algorithm-based pseudo-random number is present, definitely. But true random number I generate as an electronics engineer. I design a quantum true random number generator, and that is also the NIST portfolio properly. So
I have seen certain, you know, what is it called? Something to do with bitcoins. The machines that generate the miners, the mining machines that are popping up every now and then. These have a capability of generating almost pure random numbers via hardware encoding.
Exactly, sir. Via hardware, definitely. It should be hardware. Otherwise, it is impossible.
Sir, if you want to collaborate with us in that regard,
yes,
maybe you can connect with me, and when you do, please forward the paper or publication that we have. Maybe I'll go look into
Yeah.
it, have a discussion with our team, and if need be, I'll
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
all this discussion is this only for this collaboration and all. So
Okay.
I will be more than happy to have your
Definitely,
suggestion.
sir. Definitely. Sir.
Yeah, please do that. Thank you.
Yes, and one another questions, that is, you mentioned, as we know that one, according to the Nyquist, the frequency should be the twice of the message frequency, and you mentioned that it should be for practical purpose. It should be just greater than the frequency message frequency. So, as in practical purpose, because as we are academician, we are not working too much in the industry. So my question is that. Is it fruitful if we are followed just above of the message frequency?
No,
There is any chance of aliasing or overlapping of the signal?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. What I said is, let me rephrase. Maybe I didn't make it clear. What I said is, Nyquist gave you the bottom line that if your message frequency is at FM, F substitute M, I'm going by Latry's book, your sampling rate should be twice of FM.
Yes.
That's the minimum. You cannot go below this. If you go below this, you will have aliasing.
Yeah.
Of course, you have aliasing, right? So what I said is that this is only theory. Twice of FM is just the theory. If you sample it actually at twice of FM, and you can do it in MATLAB very easily, you will see that the sine wave, original sine wave, is not looking at sine wave. It is going to have a very weird shape. It will have notches on top of the crest and the trough. So practically what is practiced worldwide is you go 10 times FM.
Okay.
If it is very costly, if your FM is in megahertz, then 10 times tens of megahertz. Then you do at least 4 times. So in my entire career, I have never gone below 4 times of FM if I'm using that technique. So that is what I said. You cannot just come closer to FM. The quantization error will kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hope that
Thank you.
answers.
Thank you.
And I'll wait for your response even after the
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
send me the paper, and I'm very eager to read it.
Definitely.
And we
Definitely.
can incorporate it.
Okay. Definitely.
I
Does
think
anyone else have any questions? Okay, I don't think so. So I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude towards our speaker, Mr. Rakshit, and present him with a digital memento on behalf of everyone from Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management for sharing his valuable thoughts. Now I'll request everyone to submit the feedback form, which has already been provided in the chat box. And I'll end today's workshop by thanking our respected principal ma'am, every other member of IIC, and our beloved students. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, from my end, thanks for calling me again. I look forward to this sort of interactions because it reminds me of my college days. It reminds me of all the struggles that I have been through. And I really look forward to such interactions because the benefits are twofold. Like Sir mentioned, he is working in some completely different, remotely not related domain, yet he had some suggestion for me. These are like nice collaboration opportunities. And apart from that, Indian researchers, I'm all up for doing this sort of things because there is a wave of entrepreneurial mindset in our country, and if I am of any use to any such student, I feel really grateful. That's my way of giving back to the society. So thank you for having me here. I had a great time. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.